Have you ever felt like your emotions are just on a hair trigger? One minute you're totally fine, and the next you're completely overwhelmed with anger, or you just can't stop crying over something kind of small. If that sounds at all familiar, well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive into the science behind why chronic stress can make you feel so emotional. And it really all comes down to a word we hear all the time: burnout. So, what's really going on in our brains when this happens? Let's get into it.
This quote from a Reddit user just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling of emotional whiplash. The highs are super high, but the lows, man, they feel incredibly deep and intense. And listen, this isn't just being moody. It's a key symptom of what happens when our internal stress systems are pushed way past their breaking point. I mean, it's that feeling where a tiny inconvenience, like spilling your coffee, feels like a world-ending catastrophe. Or a simple comment from someone just sends you spiraling. This isn't just a personality quirk. It is often a huge sign that something much deeper is going on with your body's stress response system. Okay, so let's actually put a name to this experience. Because while it feels intensely personal, the World Health Organization, the WHO, has actually defined burnout as an official occupational phenomenon. Now, this is a really big deal because it validates that what you might be feeling isn't just all in your head. The most important part of the WHO's definition is right there. Burnout comes from chronic, unmanaged workplace stress. See, it's not about one bad day or a single tough week. It's the result of a long, drawn-out period where the demands of your job have just completely overwhelmed your resources to cope. The WHO actually breaks burnout down into three main parts. First up, there's that feeling of just complete exhaustion. And we're not just talking about being physically tired. It's this deep sense of your energy being totally drained. Second, you start to feel this mental distance from your job, which usually shows up as cynicism or just feeling negative about everything. And third, you get this sense of reduced professional efficacy, that feeling that you're just not good at your job anymore. And it's so important to draw a clear line here, because while burnout and depression can look and feel pretty similar, the WHO makes a key distinction. Burnout is an occupational phenomenon. It is tied specifically to your work. Depression, on the other hand, that's a clinical medical condition that usually affects all areas of a person's life, not just work. So how exactly does chronic stress at work lead to those wild emotional swings we were talking about? To really get it, we need to look at what's happening inside our heads, like how stress physically changes the structure and function of our brain. Okay, so every time you perceive a threat, whether it's a huge deadline or just a tough conversation you have to have, your body kicks off this chain reaction called the HPA axis. It's a mouthful, right? Hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. This system pumps out cortisol, which is our main stress hormone. Now, in short bursts, this is actually super helpful. But when the stress just never stops, this whole system goes completely haywire. So think of a part of your brain called the amygdala. It's basically your brain's emotional alarm system. It's in charge of your fight or flight response. What chronic stress does is it essentially gets that alarm stuck in the on position. It becomes hyperactive, constantly scanning for danger, and frankly, overreacting to just about everything. Now, at the very same time, another part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, starts to get weaker. You can think of this part as your brain's CEO. It handles logic, reasoning, and emotional regulation. It's the part that would normally step in and tell the amygdala, hey, take a breath. This isn't actually a life or death situation. So you see the problem here, right? You've got an overactive, screaming emotional alarm system and a weakened, ineffective CEO who can't calm it down. This imbalance, this is the direct neurological reason for the emotional roller coaster of burnout. Your emotional gas pedal is slammed to the floor and your brakes are shot. So if our brain's emotional circuits are basically fried, how in the world do we fix them? Well, it turns out there's a powerful and, I think, really overlooked factor that plays a massive role in this whole equation: sleep. The relationship between burnout and sleep is just this classic, nasty, vicious cycle. The stress and anxiety from burnout make it way harder to get good quality sleep. And then that lack of sleep makes you even more emotionally volatile, which just, well, it fuels the burnout even more. It's a tough loop to break. And the impact of losing sleep is just staggering. Get this, research shows that just one night of not getting enough sleep can cause your amygdala, that emotional alarm center we talked about, to become over 60% more reactive. I mean, that is a huge jump in emotional sensitivity from just one bad night of sleep. These brain scans show us exactly what's happening. Look at the image on the left. That's the amygdala in a well-rested brain. It's pretty calm. But now look at the one on the right, in the sleep-deprived brain. It's lit up like a Christmas tree. That is a picture of that 60% hyperreactivity in action.
So what's actually going on here? Well, sleep deprivation physically weakens the communication pathway between your brain's CEO, the prefrontal cortex, and its alarm system, the amygdala. That top-down control that normally keeps your emotions in check is effectively severed. The boss can't get a message to the panicked employee. But good sleep does way more than just rest your brain. REM sleep in particular seems to work almost like a form of overnight therapy. It goes to work processing the tough experiences from your day, and it helps to strip away the intense emotional sting, while still letting you hang on to the memory and whatever you learned from it. Pretty amazing, right? Okay, so understanding the neuroscience is one thing, but how do we actually break this cycle of burnout? Well, the research points to what you could call a two-pronged attack. See, tackling burnout can't just be about individuals needing to be tougher or manage their stress better. It needs both individual strategies, which focus on the person, and organizational strategies, which focus on fixing the workplace itself. So on the individual side, it's really about actively building your own resilience. Things like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can help you spot and challenge those negative thought patterns that fuel burnout. You know, like turning a small mistake into a catastrophe in your head. Mindfulness can help ground you in the present. And honestly, finding meaning and joy outside of your job is so critical because it builds a protective buffer against all that work-related stress. But look, personal coping skills can only take you so far. Organizations have a massive responsibility here. And this isn't just about offering a wellness app. It's about fundamentally changing the work itself. It means managing workloads so they're actually realistic, fostering a culture where taking a vacation is truly encouraged, not just tolerated, and creating a supportive environment where people feel safe to speak up. And this right here is the real key to managing burnout. You need both pieces of the puzzle. An organization can't just offer a mindfulness class and expect that to fix a toxic, overworked culture. Real, lasting change only happens when individuals are given the tools and support they need, and the environment they work in is fundamentally improved. All right, so let's just quickly tie this all together. First, remember that burnout is a real, defined workplace issue. It's not just you. Second, chronic stress literally rewires your brain, making you more emotional. Third, quality sleep is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to get your emotional equilibrium back. And finally, fixing burnout isn't just on you. It's a shared responsibility between the employee and the employer. And all of this leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. Since the World Health Organization itself defines burnout as an occupational phenomenon, are we putting way too much pressure on individuals to solve a problem that actually starts in the workplace itself? Something to think about.